Eszter Vajda, and welcome to Hometown Talents and Treasures. We're at the Real School of Music in Andover, one of their 2 locations. The owners like to describe this place as a gym or fitness center for musicians, where students, young and old, can strengthen their skills and ultimately prepare to perform in front of crowds, small and large.
But love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah.
What is it like performing?
It's such a rush, honestly. I love performing so much. It just feels like everything else going on, you have no clue what's going on, really. It's only like what's going on you can't really see past, like right in front of you. Just such a great experience.
Who are some of your heroes as musicians?
Well, I had a grandfather who was an incredible musician, and I just remember growing up, he lived in South Carolina, and so obviously I didn't get to see him that often, but I remember growing up, I would go into his living room, and he had this beautiful baby grand, and he'd just play it so incredibly. He'd shut his eyes and just play everything off of memory, and I always just found it so incredible, and I just wanted to be able to one day be as good as he was at everything he did with music, and so I just keep pushing forward to try to get to this level. Yeah, definitely.
But before hitting the stage, students at the Real School of Music get some one-on-one instruction.
I start off a little quiet.
Stephanie Mori is a former Walt Disney performer.
Yep, I primarily was stationed in Magic Kingdom, and I also worked a little bit in Animal Kingdom. And every so often I'd end up in the other 2 parks, but primarily that's where I worked. In Orlando, Florida. It was a wonderful experience. I worked there for about a year, and yeah.
And then why did you decide to teach?
I think I was always a teacher. I studied education and music in undergraduate, and then I went to Disney for a little while because I wanted to try performing, but what I found was that I just missed teaching. I missed working and watching the process of watching a student develop, whether it was singing or teaching theater or teaching other types of performance. I found that was really my love, but I did love performing. It was great, and I got to do a lot with Make-A-Wish Foundation, and some of the memories I have from that changed my life and are with me forever, but I just missed the long-term relationships you develop through teaching. So.
What is it like to teach here?
It's very upbeat. Everybody's really friendly. Everybody's willing to work with one another. Also, I just feel like I have the freedom to explore with my students. I mean, Amanda's got a really great sort of folky voice. You know, we do Adele, we do a little bit of, Christina Perry, but then we can also explore the classical repertoire too. In a lot of schools, they'll only let you do classical or only musical theater, but I have the freedom to explore where my students want to go, which is awesome.
What do you think it is about music? How do you define it?
I always like to say music communicates what words and numbers can't. Music is the one medium that, even though it's not universal, different cultures have different types of music. Music is a way for people to communicate how they're feeling when words can't. And everybody has their own unique interpretation, which everybody can make music their own. And very few other disciplines you can do that in.
The Real School of Music has 2 locations. The first opened in Burlington in 2008 and the second in Andover in 2013. There is a certain energy, a vibe, a feeling that you get when walking through the school that permeates into every room. A passion and love for music that begins with its staff and leaders.
We were looking to open a school that would allow kids and adults to come together and play, much like a gym for musicians, a health club as you call it. So we'd want to have as many activities going on, not just private lessons, group lessons, and make it a destination place. As you get kids and adults to play with each other, they get more engaged in the process and have more fun, and that's what it's all about.
And it's really not just one-on-one with teachers, but also putting them in a jam session.
Yes, we have ensembles that we put together, both adult and kid ensembles. Classical music for contemporary music, a cappella, whatever it means to get kids together and adults together to play in a group really starts to get the juices flowing. And then the private lessons mean even more because they accelerate. They don't want to let the other players in the band down or in their group down, so they work harder with their instructors to get better and better and better. And they progress, and they stick with the music lessons longer if they are involved in group play. So we found that a real high correlation between the students that stay with us and accelerate in the program to if they're participating in the ensemble program. That being said, our ensemble program is going crazy. It's bursting at the seams.
This room is an example of somewhere where they're playing instruments, they're singing.
That's right, it's one of our ensemble rooms. We have 4 of these rooms here, in addition to the performance hall, which is the real room. And they're outfitted very similarly, where we have some sound equipment, keyboard, drums, soundproofing, and treatments on the walls. And the idea here is that the students come in and play in a group with instructor supervision and leading whatever songs they're going to play for that day. They can also use the room outside of that if they want to as a rehearsal space.
You're a musician yourself.
Yes, I am.
You come from a background of music, but you sort of strayed away and went into engineering.
Yes, it's kind of common. When I was in high school, I was a saxophone player, jazz saxophone player, very serious about it. I did some studying up at UNH in the program there, and I got interested in engineering at the same time and kind of decided at that point that I would take a path when I was a senior in high school and early in my career in college that I would follow engineering and do some computer work, basically developing. Actually, what I worked on is signal processing, which had to do with voice and things around the ear, processing sound. But I came back. I always played in bands. Always
I was going
took
to
my
say,
saxophone out.
while you were in college, did you maintain your love?
Absolutely. Played in a band called Every Good Boy Does Fusion, which is every good boy deserves fudge. A little play on that. But we were a frat house or campus band. Played a lot of the parties, and became kind of a go-to band for the activities on the campus, basically, just at the student hall.
And then what was that aha moment? I need to go back to music.
I've been playing for a while, and then you start to have a harder time finding people to play with. At least I did, and I was looking to get back into something. At that same time, my good friend from high school said, "Hey, I got a business plan to open up some schools. Remember what your passion was back, when we were in school together. Want to make that a reality." So this plan was very well written, and it's still something that we use as a guidepost for setting up and expanding these schools geographically, not only throughout Massachusetts, but in other locations throughout the country. So we do have a plan to kind of take this model, use it as a template, and start to build more locations as we grow it out. So,
If you were to name 3 things that are very different from any other music school, what would it be? What would they be?
here at the Real School of Music, it's really based around the 3 things I'd say are our curriculum, which we've really put a lot of work into our curriculum to develop and deliver customized a program for each individual student, whatever age, whatever ability they are. And that curriculum allows us to engage with the student with their musical interest, at the same time feeding them their vegetables, their music theory, what they need to do for listening, for transcription, for general music theory training. And we want to get that ingrained in them without making it burdensome. You want to be fun. You want to be exactly. You want to get them into the music they love. They want to do it. They do it for a reason because they're passionate about it. So that's thing number 1 is to incorporate and weave in theory with the music of the student. Ensemble play, back to what we were talking about earlier, absolutely the most important thing here at this school is the opportunity to play with others and to celebrate that as much as we can and to put them onto stage, the students on a stage within the school in our real room or outside the school at local establishments in the area that like to have live music. And that's really...
Get them out there.
Yeah, get them out there and play. And the third thing is really the environment. I mean, you walk into the school, you want people to go, aha, this is a place I want to be. I can sit down, I can enjoy myself, I feel good here. It's not a dusty old, dank cellar, and we're not
Basement,
a basement,
garage.
right? It is a room. It's a fresh room. It's a room you want to. The rooms, generally, the building, the ambiance. It's all about music. It should just exude a good experience and have a buzz factor around it at all times. So that's our credo.
Certainly does.
Our vision when creating the school was to create an atmosphere not only for learning and instruction, but for a performance, and an instructor-led performance. So we put in an entire backline. We set up the whole experience as if a student were to be, go to a club, schlep all their gear around, work in the sound booth, have an audience, and just the entire experience of taking what they've learned in the classroom and bringing it on stage in a comfortable environment. So some of our instructors will actually take students out of the room and bring them down here, get them on stage for the first time, learn how to try out a microphone. Most vocalists or guitarists have never plugged their guitar in or heard themselves over the microphone, and it adds a different depth to what they're working on once they can put it on the big screen, put it on the stage. It takes it to a whole nother level. So we're happy to have that in-house. It's just a huge perk.
Now, there's a huge difference between singing in a room with a teacher or in the shower,
right,
to in a room full of people and on stage. What do you tell students about overcoming stage fright?
Well, I'm not an instructor, but I speak with the instructors all the time about this because I do help to book students for shows. And a lot of our students are prepping for auditions, for parts in plays, parts in musicals, prepping to get into colleges for music, and they're always doing audition tapes. So they really do a lot of work in preparation for that. So just as I mentioned, they get up, if they feel comfortable with their tools, comfortable with the microphone, comfortable with the lights, if they create that environment to be more of a natural environment that they're used to working in, when they're put in the spot in that moment and the seats are suddenly filled, it's a little bit easier. If they've been up here before, if they've heard their voice. For example, we just had a student perform the national anthem at Fenway Park. And as she was preparing for it, somebody gave us a great tip that you have to be careful in the park because the sound travels so far, you actually hear yourself echoing back. And I thought to myself, gosh, that's a huge difference. That's never happened. But then I remembered this particular student is in our a cappella ensemble, and that's one of the things they work on. They work on having another student next to them and how to continue with their own part while somebody else is beginning their part. So just once you add in all the little bits and extras that come along with your lesson, it rounds itself out. The school becomes more than just that 30-minute lesson where you do do, re, mi. It's more than that. It's
Awesome.
more than that, yeah.
Awesome. It's a place to play, practice, perform, and perfect each person's own individual style of music. That's our show. Thanks so much for joining us. And if there's someone or an organization you'd like to see featured on Hometown Talents and Treasures, email me at esternvajda@gmail.com. Remember, it can be anyone. The important thing is that they selflessly donate their talent and time to help others. See you next time.